Welcome everybody, John Alexander here with you tonight, and it is Wednesday night, and we're going to have a training call tonight. This is one of my favorite subjects to train on. I train on this and actually a lot of extensions out of what it is I'm going to be training on tonight in my live seminars that I've held for years. So these are things that usually I don't give out to the general public, but I'm going to give up some stuff to you guys tonight so you can see how you can go out there and pick up some free and clear properties. And what do I mean by free and clear? I mean that there is no liens on them, like mortgages, all right? There is not going to be any back taxes, although there may be to start out with, but we're going to show you how to get rid of that without costing you any money. And so these properties are basically easy to take over, and once you take them over, they're free and clear, which means whatever money now that you get from them, you get to keep. Now, there are some trade-offs on the amounts of money that you get. In other words, how the money and how cash flow comes into you is a little bit different than just on a regular property. But the other offset is it didn't cost you anything. All right, so that is what we're going to be talking about tonight, how to pick up free and clear homes in your local area. These are homes that are all around you, and every month they disappear. They go into some investors' pockets, and you miss the opportunity. Now, I'm going to tell you, this strategy that I'm talking about has been here for a very long time. In fact, in 1987, some of you know my story, by the way, where I was penniless. I just lost everything because I was a builder, and I was on the wrong side of the market, obviously, in that crash. And this is a technique that I used to come back out of that slump. Okay, so I'm going to share this with you tonight, and this was also the first technique that I introduced to my own son when I got him started in real estate as well. So this is a very safe, easy, it's very little talking to anybody, which is another thing that makes it so easy to do. Okay, well, let's jump right in. First of all, make sure that you have a pen and paper, because I could cover some stuff, you're going to forget it, and people ask for replays, and a lot of times we have replays, sometimes we don't know, okay, so keep that in mind. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the type of property that we're talking about. Free and clear properties are oftentimes properties that have already been around for a while, okay? So somebody bought them a long time ago, and they paid them off usually over their lifetime sometimes. And oftentimes these people either get shipped off sometimes to jail, okay? Sometimes they get shipped off to an old folks home. Sometimes they die. Sometimes they die and give this property, their property that's paid off. They give it to their children. Probably the worst thing you can do, by the way, if you want to keep your children together and talking for the rest of their life, don't deed property to them after you die. Make sure that in your will, this is a side note, folks, this is because I have made so much money there, and I've seen the devastation this type of thing occurs. The parents often think, well, we'll give the house to this child, or we'll give the house, the worst thing, give the house to all the children, okay? Let them divide up the income from it or whatever they want to do. It's like a divorce happening after that, because nobody can agree, and here's what happens a lot of times, and I'm telling you this because you're going to be able to capitalize on this problem that does happen out there a lot. And it is this: when you have children, you just have a tendency to have the really smart ones and the dumb ones. You have a tendency to have wealthy ones and broke, poor ones, okay? So if you give somebody a house, if you give 2 or more children a house, and I remember this one house that I was working, they had, the parents had 13 children on this house, and when I had to go get the house basically back from all of them, I wanted to have them sign it over to me. They were at each other's throats over this thing. Okay, that's because one had the money to pay the back taxes. The other ones didn't. So the ones who had money to pay the property taxes. So the ones who didn't, they didn't pay. And the ones who did, well, they didn't pay either because the income is still getting split between all the children, so it's unfair for them to pay the taxes only. Therefore, they don't pay the taxes, and this property goes back to the county, and it goes right up to sell. Even though this is a perfectly good property, oftentimes, folks, it's rented out right now, right? And a lot of times it's just been vacated because they just let it go. The renter moved out. Nobody wanted to mess with it. Now it's vacant. All right, so this begins to shape up typically some of the houses that you're going to be running across. And this is just one scenario. There's so many different scenarios out there. Sometimes the parents will die and there's no children. All right, so it just lingers there, goes into back taxes, and is sold on the county courthouse steps to some investor. Other times, people get arrested because they're running some kind of illegal operation. They bust them, they throw them in jail, and the house does the same thing. Nobody's living in it, nobody pays on it, it just goes back. So these are free and clear houses. This is what happens to them, and so these are the scenarios that happen out there every month in every city across the United States, even in some of these small rural areas. Because I've picked up some great properties in small rural areas where there wasn't a big population, and but there's a lot of paid-off properties there too. Okay, well, let's get back on point here. So that's the kind of property we're going after. These are properties that basically have come up now for sale on the tax foreclosure courthouse steps. Every first Tuesday of the month is generally when they're sold. There's a lot of counties right now that are turning over, and they're selling them online, in an auction format. Well, my method does not involve you going down and bidding on these houses at the auction. That's not what we're about. We're going to get these properties before they go to the auction. All right. If you wait till they go to the auction, in today's market, there's a lot of investors out there that are paying way too much for these properties, auction properties, at these tax sales, and you don't want to get in there and pay inflated prices when you don't have to. If you don't have to come out of your pocket with any money, why would you want to? Well, because you don't know the method that I'm about to reveal. That's one of the reasons, and it takes a little bit more effort than going down and bidding on them as well. Now, believe it or not that much more effort, because both investors, okay, the way I'm going to teach you right now to do this, versus the investor that goes down to the courthouse steps, you both have to investigate the property, see what the deal is on the property, you see your values, etc. So you do just about as much work. And but I'm going to show you how to do this now without having to bid on it, without having to come out of your pocket with money down at the courthouse steps. Okay, I've got a lot of derivatives out of here. I'm going to try and keep on one of them, because there are a lot of different ways to pick up these properties. So I'm going to try to just focus in on a good, solid one that a lot of you can go out there and work and pick up a number of properties every year. Okay, so what we're looking for is we're looking for the list that comes out every month. So you're going to go online to your county courthouse online, your tax assessor's office, online, and find out what law firm handles their foreclosures. And then that law firm will usually produce a list of those tax foreclosures every month. And they'll publish it online, so you can get all the information about every property right there online. Now, as you do this over and over, you're going to start to learn more and more about this business. Like, for example, how to immediately spot a property where there's a deceased person involved, and there's an executor or an executrix. Those are the names that start appearing on these legal records, and so you can start to determine some good possibilities without having to go through all the different properties. All right, now the next phase that you're going to do is find out some properties where there's value differences between what's owed on them and the actual value of the property. So we try to stay away from the low value properties. We want to start going up to higher values. Really, technically, anything in this type of area, anything above $20,000 is what in the tax arena, we consider that higher end property from the value point. The tax assessor's value on it, because some tax assessors can put a value of $20,000 on the property when it's really worth $50,000. All right, so when you get down to those small numbers, it's skewed all over the place. Now the back taxes on something like that may be $3,000, $4,000. All right, now on a side note, if this property went to auction, it might get bidded up to $10,000.